Anarchy. Sounds scary, doesn't it?
It probably brings images of people running around, killing each other, stealing, raping, and other heinous acts. That's the image the media wants you to see, and sadly, it's the image that many people get when they hear the word. In reality, that anarchy is a far cry from anarcho-capitalism, which is a social system as proposed by Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard. I stand before you today not to convince you that anarchy isn't a bad thing, for that should come about on your own, but rather to bring to light the proper form of anarchy as seen in anarcho-capitalism, just as a friend of mine did for me this time last year. As I go about my discussion, I'll be covering what anarcho-capitalism is, who the major players are, and how it differs from the current constitutional system of the United States and as an extension, the West as a whole. To begin, in this world, everything is privately owned, and no state exists, but traditional human structures are still around. Ryan McKagan, editor of the Mises Daily and the Free Market, affirms this when he said in an article entitled "Who Are the Real Anarchists?" on September 12, 2013. Quote, "In libertarian tradition, however, anarchist society is merely a society in which individuals are not governed by a state built on monopolized violence and coercion, but instead govern themselves through organizations into which they have entered voluntarily. Among such institutions can certainly be found churches, schools, families, professional associations, markets, and tribes." End quote. David Barnes of Brantford College wrote in an October 2000 Yale Free Press article entitled "Congress shall make no law" that, quote, "individuals acting freely will lead society to an order in which consumers' needs are met. While this is easily seen to work in standard exchange of goods, many are skeptical that people can shop around to find the best police protection and judicial systems. The anarchist wants to replace government force with choice." End quote. Now we know what anarcho-capitalism is, let's look at the major players involved. The aforementioned article by Ryan McKagan addresses the following thinkers. While we can look back to Antoine de Lavoisier to find some early writings on the subject, the 19th century produced numerous serious anarchist thinkers, from Modigliani and Proudhon in Europe and Spooner and Tucker in the United States. These 19th century theorists would eventually be popularized and employed by Murray Rothbard in what has become known as anarcho-capitalism, the anarchist tradition of private property and free association. End quote. Ludwig von Mises was also key, for he founded the Austrian School of Economics. Economist Steve Horowitz writes of Austrian economics for the Christian Science Monitor in an article from December 1st, 2010, entitled "What Austrian Economics Is and What It Is Not," that, quote, "Austrian economics is a set of ideas useful for analyzing and understanding the world. It is not a set of policy conclusions. Austrian economics is a set of analytical propositions about the world and how to study it. It is not a set of policy conclusions or settled interpretations on history." Murray Rothbard was also key and responsible for coining the term anarcho-capitalism. In compiling a biography on Rothbard from 1986, David Gordon of the Mises Institute writes in a biography entitled "A Scholar in Defense of Freedom," quote, "Rothbard's literary output was unified by one underlying theme, his passionate devotion to individual liberty." Now we've looked at the major players, let's take our journey to the comparison between our current system and anarcho-capitalism. At short glance, anarcho-capitalism is radically different. First and foremost, our system establishes a government, as seen in the preamble to the Constitution, which states the following: "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." End quote. The Yale Free Press article article by David Barnes mentioned earlier, and the article by Ryan McKagan from the Mises Institute shows us that anarcho-capitalists thought that the government is one of choice, not force, like with the constitutional system. The force government is further supported by the wording of Section 1 Article 14 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution that says, quote, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside." Barnes also writes that, quote, "The first step toward comprehending anarcho-capitalism is to understand that taxation is theft. It is very difficult to define taxation in a way in which it cannot also be used to describe an act of theft." End quote. Of course, many Americans will tell you that taxes in the U.S. are compulsory, which the Constitution lists in Article 1, Section 8, quote, "Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the taxes, and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States." End quote. Those are two key differences between the systems of anarcho-capitalism and the constitutional system of the United States, and by extension, the rest of the Western world. Wasn't that fun? I'm still rather whipped from all the excitement. As we've gone about our journey, we've seen that anarcho-capitalism is a social system in which the people are free and are not compulsory bound. Who some of the major players are, and how it contrasts with the constitutional system of the United States, and by extension the rest of the Western world. Hope you'll join me next time when we delve deeper into this idea of government.